Right, so with only 8 episodes in its entirety and some of the most complicated lore since Gravity Falls, it was impossible for Liam Vickers and Glitch to explain every facet of murder drones within the confines of the show. So today, I'm going to try and do it in under 10 minutes. This is a collection of my own personal theories, headcanons, and potential futures for Uzi and the gang because I can't stop thinking about the funny robots. This has been a question ever since the start of the show, and while certain artists may want you to believe that you already know how this works, drone reproduction is actually quite simple in my opinion, as it would work in a similar fashion to machine learning. The data from the parents is uploaded to the host body where settings that are different between the parents are tweaked to somewhat of a middle ground, resulting in a child that contains traits from both parents. This also explains how Uzi could have been infected with the solver. She got it from her mum. Another big question from the pilot was the identity of the other groups of murder drones that Jay mentioned they were competing against to get the coveted branded pens. While instinct suggests that there are drones A through Z out there, episode 5 implies that there may only be copies of these 3, considering that their bodies are the only ones seen in Sin's basement lab. It is possible that the other drones found in Elliott Manor became A, B, C, and so on, but if you have a model that works and can be reproduced, why would you waste your time in making a new one? Side note, someone should probably tell that to Apple. One of the most frustrating things about me for this entire show is the climax of Heartbeat. While I generally love this episode and have no idea why it gets as much hate as it does, this ending poses a problem for me. Where does N go during this part? He was just there, then he wasn't anymore. Well, my solution to this is he is experiencing something similar to what Uzi is at this point. Cloaked by the Solver's optical illusions, N is shown an image of the past similar to what happens at the start of the episode. It disorients him enough to make him not immediately jump in to save Uzi, but the loud sounds and his infatuation with this girl allow him to break free before she does. This one comes from episode 3, and it's the question of how Lizzie managed to get in touch with V. While they both seem to have phones and each other's numbers, I somewhat doubt there is a drone social media app that these two both have access to. There may be a worker-specific one, but V wouldn't have a good reason to make an account at this point. Instead, I think a far more direct approach would be undertaken. We've seen that Lizzie has no qualms with going outside of the bunker at any time, so Dole decided to send her out to the murder drone's lair for some easy clout sometime between Heartbeat and the promenade. Her complete lack of fear towards the disassembly drones allows her to have a casual conversation and form a friendship with V. Since then, they have been hanging out, as V clearly isn't forced to stay in the pod during this time. Ah, the home of this show's greatest red herring. This little area underneath the floorboards holding a dead drone and some Cabin Fever Labs paperwork. While the great serial designation S turned out to be nothing more than a figment of our imagination, this drone right here likely has a name that does start with S. It makes very little sense for her here to have some other random drone's paperwork, especially since they were actively being hunted down by the Sentinels. I'd say they're in the same boat as these guys from episode 6, experimented on but not actively showing the abilities or the absolute solver. Result? Dino food. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, this is just me shilling into Mission again, but I don't care, it's really good and it has a good explanation that fits with the story. Go watch it, especially because it enhances the magic that is episode 5. The key bug and the robo-bugs in general are a bit of an odd one. My original theory that they were made by drones in Cabin Fever Labs is clearly wrong, since it's now obvious that it was made by JC Jensen's scientists to have access to their labs. Some drones were also given access to it so they could move around the facility, which is a little strange, but at that point they seemed relatively docile and in control of themselves. The bugs also appear to serve a second purpose in that they help the cleaning crews locate dead drones. It's pretty obvious that drone death isn't exactly out of the ordinary here, so their attraction to dead bodies would make it easier to identify. I believe that these bugs were scattered all throughout the labs and it would be naturally attracted to spilled oil. They may even act to decompose some of the oil to stop the carpet from getting stained. Now, the entirety of the show is focused on only 2 planets, Earth and Copper 9. We get a little glimpse into a few other systems, but it's likely that these aren't the only places JC Jensen has spread out to. In fact, it may end up being very difficult for the Solver to infect other planets. Copper 9 had to be blown up to remove the human population, and then murder drones had to be sent to it to remove the worker population, and it still failed to take over. The original host is now dead, and any planets who didn't actively choose to infect their drones with the Solver will probably be able to survive with little difficulty. It's possible that the Solver could have sent transports from Earth to these normally functioning planets, but that would take a long time, and a few transports would have nowhere near enough forces to overthrow an entire planet. I went over this a little in my Season 2 shorts, but I think the future of these drones has one of 2 possibilities. Number 1 is the happily ever after ending, where very little else of consequence happens as the antagonist has been defeated. We end up just getting a sitcom instead. Number 2 is the human invasion. Believe it or not, blasting massive waves of energy off into space is pretty easy to detect, and the death of Earth is probably common knowledge by this point. So the logical conclusion is that Copper 9 has been successfully taken over by the Solver. So particularly aggressive humans decide to go over there and kill what they believe is the absolute Solver, leading to a strange confrontation which would be very entertaining. And here is the only question that actually matters for us now. While it's impossible for a fandom to survive forever, I believe that the Murder Drones one will last longer than most. There are a multitude of fan projects coming out, me and the boys are staying together as a group, and it's managed to create a new type of OC character that is very fun to draw. So I'd say stick around. The annoying kids will go to Digital Circus, and we can have some good sunset years. But that's all I've got for today. Thank you all for watching, and have fun.